Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the History of Fresh Produce. We are live tonight. We don't have Maddie with us tonight. She's unfortunately feeling under the weather, so we will not have that fancy intro or the creative intro that we usually see and hear on the live streams here on the History of Fresh Produce. But we will not let that stop us. We are here tonight, Patrick and I, and we are going to kind of go over something that's on all our minds this time of the year generally, which is apple picking. Right, Patrick? I don't know down in Florida how much apple picking there is, but I know up here in the Northeast there's a lot of apple picking.
Not too much down here, to be real with you.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, like, I don't think I've ever seen an apple orchard driving through Florida. I'm sure there is something.
I think so.
Maybe in the north.
I don't know, man. I mean, to be real, I have no idea, but we might find out.
See, that's something we got to discover then. Find a Floridian apple orchard.
Yeah, I think it'll be great. And it's it's a great week this week. I will tell you, we've had a lot of stuff happen. It's my wife's birthday this week, so we're going to be celebrating her birthday. And hey, there's a lot to do, and I would say a lot to say. You know, if anybody's noticed, we got a lot of new logos going on too. You know, so that's kind of cool in itself. John, I love that when we've been getting some good feedback on the logos and what's been happening as well. So I hope that you guys are enjoying it. I hope you enjoyed the new intro, John. I like the new intro, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
I love it.
I hope we do. That's the problem if we don't like it. But
brought to you by John Papp.
But no, so look, welcome everybody. We're happy to have you as always. Thank you for joining in, listening. As always, please put your questions in the chat box, your comments, good or bad. We'd love to hear.
Good, bad, indifference.
Tell us where you're listening from.
We want to know.
We want to know everything.
Dan Weiss said happy birthday to Renee. And also, like, I just got back from traveling, everyone. So, you know, I've got like a handheld mic right here. I don't have my normal setup because it's still packed.
That's right. Man on the move.
But it's okay.
Yeah, you still sound great.
It's okay. So, a little housekeeping, John.
Yes.
What did you say? What's going on?
So let's see. Where have we been? We've been the last few episodes. We've had the Mongols, which I got to enjoy on my own as you were traveling.
You did?
I did. And that was a really fun one. She was a fantastic person to have on the show.
She had a good personality too.
Oh yeah,
I was watching the video.
She loves what she does, and I think for her it was also very exciting because I think it was kind of outside the wheelhouse what she's usually talking about with Mongols,
right?
Food and specifically produce. You know, how many people are coming up to her
saying
Mongols and produce. So I think it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that one.
That's cool.
And then we had Flagler Part 1 that came out last week.
That was a really good one. We got a lot of comments from that. You know, I went to a meeting last week and I go to the meeting and the guy was like, "Oh my gosh, I love the Flagler episode." Like, I'm like, wait, that came out like 12 hours ago. Like, I'm looking at my watch, like, wow. Like, and then he gave me like this whole story because he's a fisherman and you know where he fishes at and the keys and all that. And I was like, wow.
Oh, yeah,
like,
so he knows. He
knew a lot about it. He definitely knew a lot about it for sure.
Yes, and obviously we have Part 2 coming out next week.
Okay.
So our little short 2-part series on Flagler. So we have that on the horizon to look forward to. And then we got a lot of exciting stuff coming in October, right? So we have, well, first of all, our next live stream is going to be our first in-person live stream from Atlanta for the International Fresh Produce Association's Global Produce and is that mouthful?
Global Floral and Produce Show. You got to say it like fast.
I know.
Or slow. Global Produce and Floral Show. Or is it Global Floral and Produce Show? GPFS or GFP? Okay.
Yeah, GPFS.
I'm done.
And
listen, there's Ross in the comments. Ross, tell us what it is, man. GPFS or GFPFPS? Okay. See,
look, we are very excited about it because we're going to be broadcasting not only during the event, but we're going to be at the Hard Rock Cafe.
That is pretty cool. I was excited when we got this all set up that we got to say we're going to be at the Hard Rock and we're going to be downtown and we're going to be talking about the history of fresh produce, everyone. And we're not even going to tell you what we're going to talk about. You got to figure it out. Figure out what's in Atlanta, everybody, because we got some fun stuff.
I think it's going to be a surprising episode. I don't think a lot of people are going to guess what we're going to talk about. But of course, we have to thank IFPA themselves. They are the ones helping us sponsor us and this special event that we're going to be doing. So definitely come down if you're in Atlanta, whether you're in the produce industry or not. If you're completely removed from the produce industry, but like the
come down.
Produce, come on down. We're happy.
Watch us live.
Yeah, watch us mess up and
oh my goodness,
that's the best part, right? That's what happens.
I love that. I got a comment in already. It said, I would love to join this. A chairperson at a culinary history institute said, I'd love to join, but I'll be on my way across the sea. She'll have to download this later. Barbara Peterson.
Oh yes, Barbara.
Cool. Oh, Ross. Okay, let's get everybody real quick. It's the Global Produce and Floral Show. And Ross would know because look at all those emojis. He knows global produce. Ross, is there any floral in there? You need to add some floral, buddy.
That's true.
Ross needs to add some
floral in there.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's a live stream. We also, from an episode standpoint, we'll also have an episode on the history of mangoes.
Yes.
Going to come out. And then also the Salem witch trials.
Oh, that I'm looking forward to.
That was fun. We recorded that one last week. I think it was last week.
That one's going to be amazing.
And that was a fun one. So that's a whole different perspective on the Salem witch trials. So that'll come out around Halloween, of course, because we wanted to get into the spirit of
Halloween
and hauntings and things like that. So
what do you say? You want to get this started?
Yes, let's go into apple picking mode.
All right. Now we do have some slides, everyone. John, I'll let you manage the slides just so we can give you a little bit of what's out there and have some fun, everyone. We do get a lot of comments on, what's next on this and what we're doing. And, we're here for you. That's one thing I tell everybody is John and I love this. This is all stuff that we get to have fun with, but we want you to know what's going on. So let's start with the origins of apple cultivation in America. So, John, the apples we know are not native to America. Did you know that? Now, the French Jesuits, that got me on that one, brought the first apple seeds to North America in the 16th century. There were apples in North America, but they were crab apples, tart, acidic. As for the British settlers, we don't know if Jamestown settlers had apple trees, but we do know that pilgrims, that's right, pilgrims who settled in modern-day Massachusetts in 1620 brought apple trees from England. So apple orchards soon flourished in the colonies, with apples playing an essential role in the early American agriculture. Now, we know they did very, very early. So the hardiness of apple trees and their ability to adapt to various climates made them a popular choice for farmers across the growing nation. But these apples weren't primarily eaten fresh by the colonists like they were today. They made cider, vinegar, and even dried apples for preservation. So in time, apples became a central part of American life, and both for sustenance and for the culture surrounding their cultivation. So imported traditions and local practicality were making apples a staple component of American diets. I would say when you got to go back to early days, we're talking pies, preserves, and other dishes that just had the little apple on it. But it became a staple, okay? So of the country's growing culture identity, and we see that in apples today. Americans were strongly inclined to cider. Of course they were.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, there was hardly anything else to drink. The sweetest fruit makes the strongest cider. And up until Prohibition in America, an apple grown in America was far less likely to be eaten than to wind up in a barrel of cider.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, yeah, right? So
drinking water back then.
100%. So virtually every homestead in America had an orchard from which literally thousands of gallons of cider were made every year. In rural areas, cider took the place not only of wine and beer, but coffee and tea. What? Juice and even water. What? Indeed. Yep, I know. In many places, cider was consumed more freely than water, even by children. Now, since insofar as it was more sanitary, air quotes, it was arguably the healthier beverage. So by the 19th century, orchards were widespread across the U.S. and apple varieties were being bred for specific regions and uses. So fairs featured apples in contests. Harvest became occasional for local celebrations. Now, Henry David Thoreau, in a lengthy 1862 essay, I wonder if that was a 5-paragraph essay. We're just asking. Annotated apples, the noblest of fruits. This agricultural alien came to be seen as inseparable from its new land. He even struggled. The most civilized of trees followed the westward course of empire from the ancient world to Europe and then on to America with the early settlers. Ralph Waldo Emerson, John, declared apples our national fruit, gushing that the American sun paints itself in these glowing balls. Apples came to resemble Americans, much like the Puritans, who regarded their crossing to America as kind of a baptism or rebirth. The apple couldn't cross the Atlantic without changing its identity. But, however, the relationship between Americans and apples started to change with the rise of industrialization.
Yeah, like a lot of things happen, right? We see this time and time again. And it's funny what you said about, every American homestead having an apple orchard. In my area, again, at least in the Northeast, which is where, the colonists first settled and stuff.
Right.
I know my best friend growing up, his property had been some sort of apple orchard back in history. The property I live on today, apparently back again, like the 1700s, is also an apple orchard. I don't see any apple orchard. They're all gone now. I don't know. Someone must.
And you know what's crazy today? I mean, if you look at like the retail world or the apple packers, there are a lot of them are coming out with ciders.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of apple. There's some hard ciders out there too that I've seen, but a lot of them are coming out their own cider to offer as a
craft ciders and stuff, right?
Yeah, like an added value product to their crops.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, right? I mean, obviously, there's a deep history behind cider, Americanism, American identity, as you just spelled out. There's a very deep connection between the apple, and obviously, this is not a new product to these people that came over. It was heavily ingrained in their culture in Europe. I mean, we heard about when we talk about the Vikings. Remember the Vikings?
I do.
And the Normans and
Normandy,
and all the cider they were brewing there. So a lot of history, but obviously got moved over to here with the people that came here. But yeah, industrialization.
Yes, sir. Right? Tell us about it.
That was a big shift in people's relationship with the apple, of course. And the reason for that, obviously, is Americans started to get more distance from the rural life, right? So you have people moving into cities, people moving off farms for better jobs in these factories and things like this. So before this industrialization period, the USDA actually once cataloged around 14,000 American varieties of apples, which is just mind-boggling. And of course, as railways started getting built out and you started to consolidate where these things could go, you started getting local stocks replaced with more of these, I guess, stronger varieties, more preferred varieties from other locales across the country. So you started to see a consolidation of the varieties. So you went from 14,000 to, I think, today, maybe there's like 4,000 varieties in America of apple. So it's a big, big shift. And so, yeah, by the late 1800s, you have a historian, Donna Brown, and she writes this in her book, Inventing New England Regional Tourism in the 19th Century, which sounds like a fascinating read. I just skimmed through it. But she basically said that so many people were removed from the rural setting that had once defined American life that they began venturing to them for weekend and summer getaways, right? The countryside became a playground. It was no longer this frontier or this unexplored world. It was a matter of, you know, re-exploring old memories, nostalgia, things like this. So at the turn of the 20th century, you start to have now you pick farms emerging. They're not like, you know, all over the place at this point, but you're starting to see little signs of it. And this is becoming in response to the further transition of economic and social changes impacting American ag. So in actually 1907, you get an advertisement for a farm near LA in California, which is encouraging people to come out and pick their own food. And then, of course, by the 1920s, right, you have motor vehicles. You got the good old Model T on the roads now.
Right.
And well, the Model T has been out for a few years before that, but at this point now, the cost of the Model T is half as much as it had been a decade earlier. So now you have city people having a more affordable way of getting out to this rural settings, to these orchards.
Right.
And that, of course, feeds more of that you pick experience. Again, we're not talking about mass commercial you pick experiences yet, but you're seeing them here and there. And so the orchards were marketing themselves not just as a place to buy, fruit, whether it be apples or peaches, or whatever they might be, but there were destinations again for recreation, for family entertainment and things like this. So, so the 1920s push on. Upper class Americans are living the high life. We saw this, Patrick, when we did our Titanic episode. If you are the upper class of society at this period, life is beautiful. But for the rest of the people, not so much, right? You're having a lot of struggle going on. You have World War I, right, in the middle of the 1910s, and that puts a big strain on the American agricultural system. Basically, they needed a lot more food to be produced. So the government's pushing these farmers to produce at very high levels. And so you have obviously machinery and technology also pushing forward. So you're getting things moving from horse to engine, and you're getting advances in livestock and plant sciences, which are helping to also boost these surpluses. And that actually all happens at the exact wrong time, right? It works great for that little period during the war, but following the war, Europe starts to rebound. There's immigration restrictions, there's declining birth rates, which means that there's fewer mouths to feed at home in the US, so prices start to sink. So when you look at 1929, if farmers had collected $1 then for crops like, let's say, wheat or cotton or corn, kind of the staple stuff, only 4 dimes, so 40 cents, they're getting back for that same stuff in 1932, just in a matter of 3 years. So that's kind of the environment. Now, a lot of people that might be listening to this say, oh, 1929 and 32, that sounds like a familiar time in history, right? So that is, of course, when the Great Depression hits.
Yes.
Also a big problem.
You know your dates.
The stock market fell to its lowest point during, obviously, the Great Depression. You have 20,000 military veterans outside the U.S. Capitol demanding payment for wartime services, obviously coming off of World War I. And at the same time, though, you have farmers, right? The foundation of this agricultural machine of this country that are asking and desperate for financial relief to ensure that they earn enough to cover their expenses. And obviously that desperation turns into anger, as a lot of these things normally do when you get very desperate. And eventually that morphs into action in Iowa farmers pledging to strike. And then that obviously spreads to other states as well. You even have this, I guess it's a good case study of this orchard or cherry producer, I should say, in Door County. And they were I guess they claimed the title top cherry producer in the country at this point. But when it came time to harvest, obviously in this environment, there wasn't a lot of demand or pull, right? You have the local canneries that guaranteed payments of only 1 cent per pound, which wouldn't even cover the cost for the farmers. And we've seen this before, right, Patrick? I mean, I know you're in citrus and stuff, and we see this on occasion, obviously not to these levels, but where it might be even cheaper to just let the fruit sit on the tree.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah.
It really is.
That obviously happened a lot to a high level and degree during the Great Depression. And so what are they going to do? The orchard owners just couldn't take that kind of loss at the same time. So they got creative. They started putting out announcements in newspapers, on radios, basically saying cherries at a penny per pound. Pick them yourself.
Wow.
Right? Okay.
It's not too
So
bad. Not too shabby.
that's pretty smart idea. And what happened for this specific farm, there was actually an unusual warm front that pushed through at the season's opening in early July. And this worked out perfect because people came out. It was great weather. People came out to basically almost cosplay as a farmer for a day.
Ah,
And they ended up picking 100,000 pounds of fruit, which is just crazy. Right?
wow.
That's a lot of fruit. And obviously other farms are watching this happen. They're like, wow, okay, we want in on this. So now you have rival orchards posting their own ads all over the place, handing out cards with directions to their farms. You have people roller skating along roads with signs on their back saying, come to our farm. You have trucks with signs that say, follow me to their farms. You have all these farmers trying to get people to their farms to pick their crops so they can get something out of it. And so in these frenzied weeks of trying to get as many people to come visit their farms and pick their fruit as they could, you actually had a single orchard that recorded 10,000 visitors from
Woo! That's a
30
lot.
towns within driving distance. It is a lot. So and this worked out well for for the people picking too, because remember, this is a very desperate time. A lot of people are suffering financially, and this was a way to escape. You can go out to the country. You could go out with your family, with your friends, and just be removed from the chaos of the world and of the financial world and life in general, and just laugh, chat, eat fruit. So it was great. And so for the first time, you have these short getaways that are combining with farm life
That's
at
cool.
a substantial scale, and that generated an economic boom of, again, for this particular farm that experienced this one case study we're talking about, $25,000 in cash. And if we convert that to today's money, that's about $500,000 today.
Oh,
Not bad, right?
big money.
But Patrick,
Big money.
it is big money. And so it ends up being a great model. And it actually really doesn't leave the minds of people, because it isn't long after this period that another drastic event happens in history, right?
Yeah, well, and you know it, I know it, the American people know it, and that was, everyone, that was post-World War II, okay? So World War II happens, and I say happens, but there's a lot going on. So after World War II, many small farms faced increasing pressure from industrialized agriculture, urbanization, and changing consumer habits. Farmers needed new ways to remain financially viable and to attract consumers back to the farm. So labor shortages inspired growers to solicit volunteer pickers, like help from nearby families, formal Girl Scouts, and professional baseball teams. Didn't think that one, did you, John?
Yeah, let's see Derek Jeter picking some apples.
Yeah, right. I could see it now.
I'm dating myself a little bit. I know.
Yeah, I know you are. I don't even know any new.
I'm not a big baseball guy, so
okay. New baseball player. You can't even. Someone comment, please. Let us know. New baseball player. I have no idea. I'm trying to. Oh, Alex Bregman. He plays for the Houston Astros. I only know that because of Brent Aaron word. Okay. Got one. Hey, give me one for at least remembering. So let's get back, though. Operations also sometimes invited locals to help scoop up their scattered remaining crop at the end of the harvest season. So the You Pick model offered a solution by transforming farms into destinations where visitors could actively participate in harvesting their own fruits and vegetables. This idea was revolutionary because it went beyond traditional farm stands and markets, inviting people to connect directly with the source of their food. For farmers, it was a win-win. They could reduce labor costs while also building a loyal customer base who valued the experience of picking their own produce. Direct on-site sales to visitors, John, It allowed orchards to restore their margins while saving on labor and shipping costs. It also lured an audience for other farm products and attractions that could boost the bottom line. That's right. So apples were a natural fit for the model. Their studied branches and easy to pick nature made them accessible to people of all ages, while the scenic beauty of an apple orchard in the fall provided an idyllic setting for a family outing. Okay.
Very true.
And I was going to say, pop up that slide again. In 1964, Eckert's, which claims to have the largest family owned and operated pick your own orchard in the country, launched an experiment.
Love me an experiment.
I love that. Okay. So the company planted 25,000 dwarf apple trees, then hitched up wagons and rumbled people into its orchards to pick their fruit. Beauties, but also small, knobby, hail-pock apples, some blushing on just one side. So like half green, half red. I get it. Okay. Now, people will pick things off a tree and they think, oh, this is so beautiful. Vernon Eckert explained. Odd apples that didn't stand a chance at the supermarket went home in bags. So these people, like, they took them in bunches. They piled it into wagons. And in this range, it was around October 1970 when they were doing this.
Yeah.
Pickers saved $1 or so on a bushel. But that's not why people drove and still drive to Calhoun County, or why by 1977, dozens of U-Pick farms had popped up, offering not just apples, but, yep, I know who. Anybody know it? Peaches. That's right. And pumpkins.
Yeah.
And then last, some hand-pressed cider. So we find ourselves chasing a distant memory, one filled with open skies, rolling hills, and the sound of horses. It's a memory of a time when 17,000 varieties of apples thrived. Not just the 4,000 we have today, John. No. I mean, just saying. Okay. Back then, apples had names like Gloria Mundi, Old Fred, and Hollow Log.
Hollow Log.
What are we talking about here? Okay. It was a time for towering displays of identical glossy red apples, though, John, in the superstores. Okay.
Yeah.
A time when an apple could come from anywhere, look like anything, and still be called beautiful. Oh, I like that. So over time,
it's beautiful.
I mean, listen, over time, though, John, you pick experience. It did evolve. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it went on to include more than just picking apples, turning the visit into like an all-day adventure of exploring the farm. And the emergence of the U-Pick farms marked the beginning of the agritourism in the United States, a trend that would continue to grow and diversify for decades. And what's even crazier about that, John, is we see it today.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen apple shooting. I've seen pumpkin patches, like all the things that we do for agritourism. There's more and more. I mean, you can go to Washington and launch apples out of cannons.
Well, that seems like a bad idea, a waste of good apples.
I know, but you know what? We've got people that buy with their eyes. So sometimes some of those apples never make it to the supermarket.
But it's like what you just said, though. It's funny, though, because like you said, people do buy with their eyes in stores. But for whatever reason, when they pick it off the tree themselves, that same apple that they wouldn't buy in the store is all of a sudden the most beautiful.
I was in Idaho last week looking at onions, and obviously you go into the store, onion's an onion. Okay. Yeah. But I looked at Shea Myers and I was like, can I grab one off the ground and take it home and eat it? He's like, yeah. Man, I grabbed the first one I saw. It didn't even.
You're like, this is the most beautiful onion that ever existed.
And then when I was cutting it, I was like, oh,
yeah.
Look at you. Now if I was in the store,
yeah,
you'd probably be like,
picking,
flake. Put that one down. You touched like 10. I literally looked down and was like, that one. Yeah. Like it was.
And it's not just the adults, right? It's the same with our kids. I know when my kids like see an apple in our fruit bowl at home and it has like this little nick on it, it's like, I'm not eating that. But we go to an apple orchard and they pick and it has like all these marks on it.
Don't even wash it. Like just
this is amazing. You know, but it's true. But it's true.
It is it's very true.
So you talked about Eckert's, and actually I saw a comment in there from Ross.
Oh,
Ross actually he has been to Eckert's.
He has been there.
That's pretty cool.
My man.
But Eckert's was like what you just described. I mean, that experiment was just, I think probably one of many experiments happening around that same period because it was in the
Okay.
1960s, and you can see actually here. So this is Norway, but still relevant. I just thought this was a funny picture because look how these people are dressed. This guy's in a suit, a full suit, climbing up a ladder.
Yes, he is.
It's just
I'm looking at it too. Like, what's this guy doing?
I'm
He
not
knows. He knows what he's doing, though.
He does. He does. But the 1960s, this was a big year for you pick,
Yes.
apple picking, and all that stuff because now a lot of these farms are catching on. A lot of people have experimented with it and say, "Wow, this is a way we can make more money and thrive." And so you have more farmers adopting this model, this appeal of spending the day in the orchard, and so it spreads. Obviously, that message spreads further and across all parts of the country, and it's really fueled by a combination of factors, right? So you have the rise of a middle class. The middle class is growing in post-World War America. You have increased leisure time. And Patrick, we've talked about this several times about the work-life balance, right, of today. Much different back in the 1960s. So people have a much more leisure time available to them. And they have just this renewed interest in wholesome uh, outdoor family activities. There's just this idea of being more connected with nature, being outside, and enjoying that environment. And of course, we would be remiss to not mention marketing. Obviously, marketing also plays a very key role in the expansion of U-Pick apple orchards. Uh, Farmers are realizing that simply offering apples or any other fruit wasn't enough. They need to create an experience. Think of it like a Disney World, right? You don't go to Disney World because of a specific ride. Maybe some people do, but you go for the magic. What people call magic, but it's the environment, the experience and the environment that site is creating. The same thing was happening with the orchards. So many orchards start to begin hosting seasonal events like apple festivals, like harvest celebrations, and what goes with those events. You get music, live music. You get craft fairs. You get food vendors. You get petting zoos and all these things. Like it just becomes this whole event and this whole experience. And so this draws in obviously large and larger crowds. It creates a sense of community. It creates a sense of tradition around that period of year where apple harvesting begins. And so in addition to all the entertainment, you're starting to see orchards diversify their offerings of entertainment, right? To either compete against their fellow orchards down the street or just make a name for themselves. So you have people offering hay rides, corn mazes, pumpkin patches, right? We all know that today, but this is where that starts to kind of get more into the forefront of the scene. And other capitalizing on growing interests in their specific local area. So by offering organic foods, fresh pressed cider, homemade pies, jams made from the apples in their orchards. So you have this crazy level of creativity and ideas just circulating through all these orchards throughout America. And by the late 20th century, right? So we're talking about the 1980s and 90s. You-Pick orchards, or apple orchards specifically, I should say, are becoming more than just novelty, right? They're an integral part of the American fall tradition. I mean, we see it on like Hallmark movie channels, right? We see it in just general marketing of the season. If you go to a store, like what you wear, if you were to go to a farm in the middle of the foliage season and all these things. So, and families are returning year after year to their favorite orchards. Most people are not going necessarily to different orchards every year, but they find an orchard they like and it becomes a family tradition and they create memories. It's the same thing, again, like going to like a Disney World or something. You keep going back to the same place, recreating those memories and creating new memories at the same time. And so these growth of these orchards not only provide this valuable revenue stream for the farmers, but it's also helping to foster this deeper appreciation for agriculture, the hard work that goes into growing the country's food and the people that are doing it, right? A lot of these people that go back to the same farms get to know the families and the people that do work there and run the farm. And so, yeah, I mean, the activity like apple picking becomes essentially a play act of a pastoral fantasy, right? Which is what one expert writing about this subject said. And it's very true, because we do kind of go into the orchards, kind of in some cases trying to imagine ourselves being in this pastoral setting, dressing up, maybe in some cases, and just immersing ourselves in that environment. But Patrick, take us to where we are today, because today is a whole other.
21st century is different, man. I'll tell you what, right now. I mean, the 21st century has us going everywhere. We pop up the slides again too.
Yeah,
A little bit different than the suit and tie. I think this might be Christmas pictures. John. And this is 2019 Aubrey Craig, what to wear apple picking.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They actually have what to wear for apple picking. Like, people get dressed up for this stuff. I mean, I know. I just wear whatever I'm wearing. I mean,
I try to wear like jeans and
jeans.
Like, it depends. If it's Florida, I'm going like blueberry picking or anything. I'm like, no, I'm putting like shorts on. You already know you're gonna be drenched in sweat. Like, I'm putting like glasses are gonna get fogged up. Like, I already know what's gonna happen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to be fair, of course, we're produce people, so we know. But I guess people coming from the city think, oh, I'm gonna dress up a certain way because I don't know. This is what the world is telling me is how you wear.
Yes, I guess that's cute. So, well, let's talk about that today. Okay, everyone. So today, right now we're in my studio. That's where we are. But the You Pick Apple Orchard experience has evolved into a multifaceted activity that goes far beyond simply picking apples. Modern orchards offer a variety, of attractions designed to create a memorable outing for families, tourists, and apple enthusiasts alike. So some orchards have also embraced technology to enhance the You Pick experience. Some use apps and digital guides to help visitors identify apple varieties and locate the best picking spots within the orchard. So others have developed reservation systems to manage crowds and ensure a pleasant, unhurried experience. These innovations help orchards cater to an increasingly tech-savvy audience while preserving the traditional charm of apple picking. They must not have got the memo down in Florida, because I can tell you what, it is like first come, first serve on these blueberry and strawberry farms. You could get there and it's like, you ever seen that movie Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger, like a 90s flick, man? Like when they run into the stores looking for Turbo, man, like people are getting run over. They're like, watch out, we're going to get our blueberries and our strawberries. Maul that little kid over. Like, I swear, it's crazy. I've gone literally within like 2 hours after it opened, can't even find a parking spot, and everything's almost picked. And you're like,
dang,
are these people not monitoring what is going on here? But regardless, the expansion of farm stores at You Pick Orchards has also become a significant trend too, John. So these stores often sell a variety of homemade products, including apple cider, baked goods, jams, and apple-themed gifts. Many orchards now have on-site bakeries where visitors can enjoy fresh apple pies, donuts, and other treats made from the orchard's own apples. These culinary offerings not only enhance the visitor's experience, but also provide additional revenue streams for the farm. Farms are growing and consolidating, with many small family farms going out of business. In the U.S., small farms accounted for less than 1/4 of food production in 2020. Now, from nearly half in the 1990s, in essence now, today, hello everyone, You Pick apple orchards are much more than just harvesting fruit, John. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Way more than harvesting fruit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well then fine. You tell the rest of the story, buddy. No, so listen, they offer a way of people to connect with nature, learn about ag, and enjoy a day of family fun. I mean, if you bring the kids, it's a lot of family fun. Okay. Yeah. I actually looked at some of my videos that I popped up, and I gave Lily my little camera to walk around one of our You Pick blueberries. I started watching it and just like laughing about it. She's like, "Do you see blueberries on here?" I don't, because guess what? They were all picked. We got.
I think you need to pick a new You Pick farm.
We got there just way too late. Okay. Yeah, that's just what happened. Now they offer a way for people to really, really connect with nature, because you get to walk the fields too. Okay. And this evolution from a simple farm visit to an immersive, educational, and entertaining experience ensures that you pick traditions will continue to thrive for generations to come. Unlike farms that make their money by selling their crops at market, apple orchards are not designed for industrial efficiency. They do not depend on growing as many apples as possible for as little as possible, right? And it is not actually apples that they are selling, right? It's the experience. So apples are cheap. Picking apples is relatively expensive.
Oh yeah.
The real product then is the orchard itself and the orchard market. The prevailing law is survival of the quaintest.
It's very true though, because I know it's the apple orchard I go to. I'm actually going to go apple picking this weekend.
Are you? Dude, come on. You got to get some video.
I have to take pictures.
No, video. Like, get a video of you reaching up, grabbing it, taking it.
It would be a real 20.
I always think what's cool is like people think they can pick an orange off a tree. Like, it's tougher than you think to pick an orange off a tree. There's like a technique to it. You got to do like a little twist. Right? You know it, buddy. But I mean, with apples, I have never picked an apple. I would say that I remember, and if I did, I probably yanked that thing and was like chucking it at somebody when I was like 12. Like in my adult life, I have not been to an apple picking orchard.
You need to come up here one of these falls.
Oh, sure.
I have a lot of orchards.
Just for that.
Yeah, I mean, the apple orchard I go to, there's no entry fee. You just pay for a bag that you can fill with as many apples as you want. And that bag, I think it's like half a bushel equivalent, is I think last year was $37.
Whoa, that's not bad. But listen.
But it's more expensive than going to the store. But again,
real quick though, this is a good one. By Dan Weiss. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Aphorism was coined in 1913, but was based on the original form with a different rhyme. Some 149 years ago in Wales. Eat an apple on going to bed, and you'll keep the doctor from earning his bread.
Oh, I like that. It's flipping it around.
I like it. And then, like you said, Ross jumped in again as I've been to the Eckert's, cool place. Very cool, man. It's just a very, very cool spot to be in. When you're looking at it. But you're going to be in New York. You're going to be talking about that next week. But what about, John, let's let everybody know the hidden cost of apple harvesting.
Yeah, I think that's important. And this is kind of like, I guess, the weird part of the whole apple picking experience, right? Because if you really think about it, I saw a political cartoon or something equivalent on the topic of apple picking. You have this family that's picking apples in an orchard, and they said, next year, let's go salt mine picking or something like that. So it's just kind of spin it on its head a little bit, like how weird it is that, because there are actual people, right, that are doing this for a living. And it's like if somebody came to like where I work in an office, I'm gonna go, work on a computer for a day and pretend, it's a little strange how we got to. I mean, obviously, as we've been telling the story, you can kind of follow the path now how we got to this point. But the reality is, of course, that we still have a lot of people that this is their job, right? So obviously at large commercial orchards, picking is not this stroll in the park, get to enjoy yourself, have a donut, have some apple cider, leisurely activity. You have to work fast. You have to work tactically. You are often grabbing multiple fruits with each hand at the same time. And it's hard work. It's no joke. And there's actually a quote of a apple picker, professional apple picker from 2015 that told NPR, if you are an experienced picker and you're in a good physical condition, you should not pick less than 12 boxes in a day. Okay. Now 12 boxes, mind you, is a container that holds about 1,000 pounds of fruit. So a good person is expected to pick about 12,000 pounds of apples per day. That's a lot of apples.
Wow.
And so, and again, these aren't trees like you have in a lot of these. You pick orchards, and you touch on it, Patrick, I think at Eckert's, where they were planting these dwarf apple trees. So it's easier for people to reach. They need ladders. But a lot of these apple trees at the commercial farms are big trees. They're tall. And so these pickers are climbing and balancing on these ladders that are quite high. They'll even do this in not so good weather. Again, us common folk who go there to pick apples for leisure will go when the sun is shining. We're not going to go when it's hailing or raining or whatever other kind of unpleasant weather there is. But these workers are going to pick in the weather, obviously more adverse weather than we would otherwise do for leisure. And obviously that leaves workers prone to all kinds of injuries and exposed. And obviously, in addition to just injuries like that, they're obviously exposed to pesticides. When you're doing this on a commercial level, you're doing more to protect the actual crop than if you were otherwise. So many professional apple pickers are also not local people. They're not necessarily people that are living here in the United States full time. They're migrant workers. And they often, again, obviously for that reason, come from outside the US. And they're brought in through the H-2A visa programs. And Patrick, we talked a little bit about this during our Olympics episode on the US with Duarte and the Delano grape.
We sure did.
These things, right? All these migrant farm workers. And this, they're still a very critical part of produce
our industry
today. Very critical. So actually, according to the Atlantic, Washington State, which we all know, I think, is the nation's leader in apple production, right? Washington Apple, you always see that.
Yep, you know it.
They increased its use of such workers from the H-2A program by 1,600% between 2006 and 2016. So just wrap your heads around that. That's not like decades ago. This is in the last,
We actually interviewed a third generation apple grower with his daughter at Kate Thornton and her dad. And, there was so much knowledge on that podcast. Dan, the produce man, and Ross Nelson interviewed them, and it was great, man. Just, hearing about the generations and what it takes, to bring apples to you, right?
Yeah.
Just right to your table. It's crazy.
Well, that's the thing. I think that's kind of the weird thing about apple picking, because people kind of create this idea in their head. Oh, it's such a nice thing to do. It's so calm. It's so relaxing. But this is
it?
If you're doing it full time and you have expectations, that leisurely experience quickly dissipates. So, but if we look at the Northeast, where a lot of these orchards are also, obviously Washington's a big one, but Northeast is also, their seasonal labor comes, and this was shocking to me. I didn't know this, but most of the labor comes from Jamaica. And you actually can see a picture here from the 70s of apple pickers in the Northeast. And these are Jamaicans doing the work on the farm here. And though many of those workers earn more money than at home, the Southern Poverty Law Center has likened guest worker programs such as H-2A to a modern form of slavery. So there is, again, it's just reiterating that this is not a walk in the park. This is hard work. There are, of course, labor issues still today. We've touched on it again during that one episode we did on the U.S. Delano grape strike episode. So it's still a struggle. It's still an issue. And so you have these workers that are coming here to perform this job, and it's not getting easier. These people have been coming up and forth to this area to do this apple picking exercise for decades. And, you throw this climate change in now, and that is obviously in certain parts of the country is creating relentless heat waves, which I think many of us has probably experienced at this point now. And that has actually even forced some of these laborers to harvest at night. And actually the one of the representatives from the United Farm Workers says that workers in the Pacific Northwest has to contend with hazards like rattlesnakes now that they are working at night. So that's a whole new
ball game.
Yeah, it's a whole new
ball. I never knew there would be rattlesnakes in the apple orchards.
Yeah, I mean, I not in the Northeast at least, maybe in the West, but
I was walking down the street, the other day, singing "Do." No, I'm just kidding. And I literally looked on the ground because it was warm outside and it was really hot. Snakes come out to sunbathe, and I was saying to myself, like, "Oh, this isn't. Oh, this is California. What am I thinking?" I was like, all the snakes are near the water, or like the water. Yeah. Like I was walking in just on the sidewalk, walking down the road, and I'm like, where are they at? Where are they at? No, but yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Rattlesnakes in an orchard.
Yeah. Well, I guess at night, they come out. And that's
They only come out at night. I gotta stop. I got too many song references
yeah.
tonight.
And
Oh,
look, it's not just apple pickers, right? Themselves are subject to these risks and these extremes because a lot of these workers lack, well, they have children and they lack childcare at those hours, so they have to bring their children to the fields to do this. So it's a big problem. It's obviously something that continues to be addressed
all
and
right.
battles, as we've talked on a few occasions now on
Very
this.
true. Very true.
But what else is going on? So, as we're talking about today and labor in the apple picking world, obviously there's the advent of apple picking robots,
Yes.
which have debuted in, I believe it was
Do they have names? No, I'm just kidding.
They have names, yeah. And so that's another escalating war, right, between human labor versus robot labor
All
and
right.
automation and all that stuff. So it's a constant evolving environment with apple picking and
It
on the
seems like it.
level. And yeah, so it's the whole weirdness, I guess, to this whole apple picking
A little bit of weirdness.
history is, what started as, just a way of sustenance and way of just getting yourself food, and basically everyone having to a level an orchard of their own at their home in early America, evolved to where we are today, where it's become this like cosplay farm experience, which gets us back to kind of where we were, but in a very different way, in a very different meaning to what it used to be.
Ross said iRobot versus human in produce. I would
That's
like to
kind of
see.
what we're living in today.
I would say who picks faster. And it depends, Ross. Are we talking about that iRobot from the movie iRobot? Because that thing might be able to outwork somebody. But or are we talking about just like a normal machine? But yes, I would definitely like to see the difference of
Yeah.
how fast it would take, what efficiencies it would
I think
take.
it's still being perfected, right? I mean, I don't think
I think it's imperfected for sure. I mean, humans are perfected too. So it's like every time we go to pick, whether they're on a ladder, whether they fall, whether you never know what could happen. It's not perfect every single time. You know what I mean?
no. So, I mean, that's the weird history of apple picking and why
Ross is mad because we were gonna have to do a whole episode just for Ross on cider. Okay.
we
Like
can
he
do
wasn't
that.
about, and you know what we should do? And we should actually try to contact a few of the cider companies, have them send us some cider for a live stream.
Like sponsors.
Now, for me, non-alcoholic, you can indulge if you'd like in some hard cider. I will indulge in some regular, just beautiful apple cider. I mean, I've seen pumpkin spice apple cider. I've seen so many different kinds of mint apple cider.
There's a lot.
Right there, there's so many that they're working on. So yeah, as crazy as it sounds, man, it's just there's so much to go behind it. And I think that, this weird history I didn't even know of until we brought it up to this day. If you were to say there was apple picking, I would have said, what are you talking about? I had no idea.
Yeah. So I think for those of us that will be apple picking this autumn, hopefully you have a deeper appreciation and understanding of why we're apple picking, because I know even for me, before I really dove into this subject, it was just kind of second nature, like, oh, it's autumn, gotta go apple picking. You don't really think why or how or what made you want to do it. But
very true.
There's, as anything, there's a history and a story behind it. And that's what we do on the History of Fresh Produce.
On the history.
We unveil the past and explain why we do things the way we do them today.
Agreed. Very much so. Agreed, my friend.
So look, we hope everybody enjoyed that little journey. We hope you all enjoy your apple picking. Look, I think almost all 50 states have a pick your own apple picking orchard.
I love apples, man. Listen, next week too, we're gonna have Chef Jeffrey Schlissel on the podcast, and we brought some Arctic apples in studio, and we got bags of them. Okay, we got them diced, chunked, sliced regular. We've got them in little bags. We've got them in big food service bags, and like the whole time, I'm crunching on apples, right? I mean, the whole time. We recorded that last week. We're posting it this week because actually today we released the Farm Babe. And if actually you check out that episode today and take a listen, we're eating apples on that show as well. So for the next 3 weeks, we've got apples on the brain.
Well, it's apple season. Again,
I mean, it is
apple picking season.
You can't, I mean, but this is crazy. So if you listen to the episode this morning, and I'd love to know if you just type in the comments what your favorite apple is, please. And, Michelle Miller, the Farm Babe, I was like, what's your favorite apple? She's like, I know you're going to, maybe you know it, maybe you don't. She's like, a Jonah Gold. I was like, wow. And she's like, yeah. She's like, not too many people know that. Mine is obviously, I say obviously, like you guys already know. I got like two because I love a good opal. I never tried an opal until 2020. Actually, I think 2020 when I started,
There's so many apples.
I know, but I went to the Sarasota Farmers Market and it was like the Jazz, the Kanzi, right? The Cosmic Crisp. I mean, I was just like, there's so many reds out there. And then your classic Red Delicious. And then I was like, what's this thing? An opal. I've never had an opal. When we grew up, it was like a Red Delicious and a Granny Smith. Those were your choices.
Yeah.
Right? And now there's so much more. So an opal is that yellow apple.
Right.
And what's great about it is it's still crisp. It tastes, and the flavor. I'll be real. People tell me the reason I like it, they're like, because you probably like a mixture of like an apple and a pear. And I do. I like it. It's great.
Well, that's the thing. Apples, again, back, in the 1800s, there was a lot more variety than there are today. You compare apples with the kind of
apples.
Apples to apples. Great.
Okay. There's a game called that too. You know that.
Good card game. Yeah. Apples to
apples. See?
I guess the point of this whole discussion, because you can see how many things we can talk about with apples. Probably next year, we're still finalizing our schedule.
Yes, but we should go to an apple orchard.
25. But the history of apples will either make an appearance next year or the year after, but it's going to probably be, I don't know how many parts, 6, 8 parts. I don't know. It's going to be huge.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great, is what I say.
So that will come, and we will really give you the full deep dive.
Oh, hold on. I know this person on LinkedIn who just said it. So check this out. So look at this comment. A cashew apple. Okay. Now I say I know this person. It says LinkedIn user. This person reached out to me and asked me, like, would there be a demand for cashew apple cider in the USA? And I told him, I said, I have no idea. Like, I've never even heard of cashew apple.
Here, as you brought it, I'm Googling live.
See?
And it's interesting. It's native to South America.
Okay.
Source of the cashew nut and the cashew apple, an accessory fruit. It's a light reddish to yellow fruit with pulp and juice, can be processed into a sweet, astringent fruit drink or fermented and distilled.
Yeah. So cashew apples. Ross's favorite is the sugar bee.
Look at it.
Yeah, check that out. I'll tell you what. So, okay. So Ross and Dan are going to do the history of potatoes next Friday. They're trying to. Who do they think they are?
We did multiple episodes.
Who do they think they are?
We did the politics.
They're messing with the history of the potato. Here. Ross, we challenge you, my friend. Please listen to our episode first. The history of, listen, the Produce Industry Network has 4 different shows, everyone. If you don't know, there's a Monday show with myself. The Tuesday show is with John and myself. The Wednesday show is with Juanita Gallio, all global. And then the Friday show is with Dan, the produce man, and Russ, the produce boss. So we cover all aspects of produce and the supply chain. So I can't wait to see what kind of research they did on
it. Healthy competition within our under the mother.
You be the judge
network.
Or maybe they listen to ours and they're going to add more to it. I'm going to pretend that's what the case is.
We'll see. We shall see. We shall see.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, that's everybody. I think it's time, Patrick, that we release people to
bed and off work.
Off work, maybe, yeah.
Yep.
So we hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you, as always, for your support, for joining us. If you, as always, we will beat this drum because We have to. If you want to get even more fill from the history of fresh produce, bonus episodes, book discounts, access to special events, History of Fresh Produce Club, that's where you got to join. You just have to go either to the show notes for our episode or theproduceindustrypodcast.com and find your way to becoming a member.
Oh, they'll find a way.
Yeah.
Oh,
we have to update that logo too, actually.
They'll find a way. I appreciate it, John. And listen, it's about time for me to hit the rack.
Time to go to bed. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
Goodbye.